Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are here taking a look at some choreo drafts from stage fighters, specifically the contemporary sector. I do know who's got selected based on the episode review, but I hadn't really seen any of the other drafts, so would I have picked that one out of them all? I don't know, but I'm excited for this because it's Taemin featuring on the track too. It makes it super fun, so let's go ahead and get into it. This one was the one that was picked. Da da da. Fun. I think let's review them all. Should we review them all? Yeah, let's just go for it. We're gonna watch them all. A lot of angst in it. Okay. Not as much of an impact on some of our choices. Fun. Interesting that we chose to do a leap at the end when there's no sound to justify it. You know, I did say we were gonna do like watch them all and then overview it. Yeah, we're still going to. I had to my brain had to think for a second if I wanted to do that. Or just go through each one. Yeah, we're just gonna watch them all, initial viewing. I like that he matches the room. I like that. That's a very fascinating ending. Okay, cool. Next up. Doesn't feel there's a lot of depth and intention behind his choices. It just feels like movement. So that camera catching that spot. The ending was cool though. I would say so far the endings are pretty decent. Because like how you finish your tone setter and then your finishes are important. A lot of this like helicopter propeller based rotation of the hips. Yeah, endings are fun. Honestly, just take all the endings and put them together and then there's your dance. I'm just kidding. And finally, So if I'm being honest, I think the one that got selected would be my preference. Now, keep in mind though, I have seen them audition with it. So I know the most full out refined version of this. And there's a chance that if I watched the other ones in that same lens, I could have very different thoughts. I do like the structure of this one best. For at least the setup is nice. I like the choices of how we're building up our energy. The reach is nice. And I love the intention of the look away. I think this is probably one of my favorite parts. And just, I still feel this way. It's just da da da. We focused on the actual rhythm of Taemin's vocals instead of this like that string in the back, guys, is filthy. Listen to this mess. Oh, like for me, I would have loved even here, and I think I said it when I was looking at the auditions, just having them like singing into it. So I will say those who did choose to do that, I think caught my attention as well. So, but that's such a minor preferential note, but someone who is an advocate for musicality, like that is a priority for me as a choreographer. And so sometimes I naturally project that onto others, even if their skill set isn't 100% choreography. I would say out of all of the genres, Korean dance, ballet, and contemporary, you do typically see contemporary dancers. Now, I don't know what these guys in particular, you normally see with them a heavier choreography presence and influence in their choices. And I think because of a lot of the hybrid intention or where they're gleaning from their styles, it comes with that. And there's a lot of like improvisation that comes with that too. And there's a lot of artistry cultivation in contemporary in comparison to Korean dance and ballet. Those kind of go hand in hand, not in the culture sense, but in the structures of being a practitioner is more of that mainstream line of work than being on the choreographic side of it. There's so much heritage and cultural backing in the traditions of both ballet and Korean dance, so you don't have as much of a need for choreographers like you do in contemporary. So that's why for me, I feel like these across the board, I can see there have some more, I can really clearly see the color of our dancers here. I really like this one though. Just in schema, the grand plie is a vibe right here. The grabs there, and so that does remind us of the very beginning. He resets it there, drops it down. The switch up on those Z-sets are nice. He presents the leg out. The intention of flex versus pointed feet, I like that it's very clear on that. A little thread through. I like the fact that you actually know that boom, boom, boom. It's a three-parter. I was so not sure if it was just drop on a certain part of the music or if it was supposed to go on the syncopation, right? And now it's a treble, so it is what that is. We come up, bridge, recover, and it goes boom, boom, boom. In this song's a waltz count. If you didn't know that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is how you count it. So I do find it interesting that no one chose, to my knowledge, maybe we'll do a little second watch through here, of actually doing like a waltz step like you'd see in ballet, or actually doing anything that showcased and recognized the waltz count outside of just the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or meaning like the essence of what you normally see. Like, people do wordplay on words, which I know a lot of this I may be missing because I'm not fluent in Korean. So a lot of his verbiage and context may be a little bit off for me, and that's fine. That's life. But I hope my point makes sense though, that, with waltz, it's a ballroom style. And so there's a certain way and carriage in which you hold yourself. I just find it interesting that I don't see this clear, I recognize that this is a waltz count outside of just hitting the timing as such, if that makes sense. The turn, that was gorgeous. Guys, I love just the pedestrian hinge and offsettingness on the stability. So cool. That was nice. A little illusion on that. The drop down, I love that, and he goes through. Now, somebody ended up taking the leg and extending it up in an attitude. I think it was one guy in the auditions, and I think it was because during that part they said that he was going crazy, like he was really going for it. That would still be a note. Maintain the integrity of the scheme of the choreo. Doing a back attitude extension is different than doing a thread, which is what you see there, right? Keep the scheme of the choreo. Goes back in. The leap was nice. Yeah, boom. Still timing thing. I like the with the hinge around. The drop down, and I like the lift on that. And then the drop with the backwards roll. Great stability on that. It was really fun. Dun, 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 dun. So it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, dun, dun. That was an interesting timing choice. I will give him that. That's really cool. So it was 1, 2. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, he gives 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's cool. It made me hear the music in a different way. He was very clear and it was readable, and that's what you want to have in choreo, especially if you want it picked. Drag it in, boom, and I love this extension around. I love that boom, 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 and then this boom, and they all have that free flowing finish. I do like the choreo a lot for my personal taste. Now, next year, so branching it around. He does have more of his posture does cater more towards a modern, feels more modern style. Where there's like there's this obvious concave convex kind of vibes, right? But it doesn't have a sense of like slinkiness. I would say the texture. That's very dynamic, heavy, not quite texture heavy, which in contemporary, my niche and preference, I do love a good dynamic. I love me some good texture because that's where you see the fingerprints of an individual in their artistry and the nooks and crannies of their life, right? As an artist. So that's why my preference is always going to be, give me the grimy stuff, you know, but that's more textural than dynamic, which is more universal. That was nice. I had a little extra breath sustain on the tail end of that. The reach there, the hip all changed totally fine. Rotating it around that. Oh, I like that. It was cool. The turn. So I can hear what he's going for. Catering heavy more towards the lyrics. That was cool. Da-da, si, pa. Now, I think he's just writing through the phrase versus accenting or picking a part of the track, which is fine. And he ended up doing something similar. He dropped down, went onto his stomach, came right back up, bolts down, boom. A pretty anticlimactic there in comparison to that boom, when it drops out and then you have this kick back in. I really do like that for the first choreography. It makes it its own moment and it recaptivates you. There, it just kind of feels like, we're just kind of existing through the space, recognizing it's there, but not taking advantage of the opportunity that sound presents us. Go down and back up. The turn is fine. It does feel like we're kind of just traveling to and fro, sometimes going on the floor, sometimes coming up, but we're not really entertaining a ton of like absence of movement and then full aggressive. It goes back to texture, I think, for me. The switch up there, I do like that. That's fun. We do put that in our choreo. It's a fun move and it's cool. The little head is fine. Rotate down. But once again, that did feel a smidgen similar to what we saw earlier, right? Not in the first group, but what he ended up doing later on. But that little mess right there is an overlap to that little Z set fold down that you saw in the first choreo too, right? And then there, that really did feel super, super unnecessary for that part. That would have fared way better placed when he did that reversal to come up. So that's my huge note there. And honestly, because of the placement of that move, that a lot of times can be a big enough turnoff for somebody to not select it. Because you're like, that feels so, it's so climactic in movement for the anticlimactic finish, right? Or like that finish has this vibe. And of course it could be because we're already impression, like I'm already imprinted on what the choreo was, but yeah, that to me did feel really loud in movement for the chill decrescendo of what we were hearing. But once again, can be up to preference. I come from an American lens, that's life, and the American side of dance and contemporary. I love this start, the little sweeps, ranajams here in this lens. But then that ba-da-da-da, it could just be me and my standard for musicality. It does make me sad whenever I see that and when I hear this, and it's just so prevalent and such like a moment in the music that deviates from what we were hearing in the build, and no one does, and like somebody doesn't do something to it. I'm like, And then it already, in my expectations that I'm set for, okay, I hear this part of the music and no one's hitting it. I said this about, it was New Thing from Street Man Fighter. There was this little bit in the track, and I think Subakil ended up doing something at some point to New Thing during the second season when you saw the concept shoot, and then there was somebody else who also danced to it. I just don't quite remember who. No one hit that little bass progression that happens in the, I think it's in the second, it's in the first or second verse. I think it's the first verse. And I'm just like, oh, that section is so cool. Like da-da-da-da, something along those lines. So I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff, more than the average Joe. I know that, right? So that's why I take what I'm saying in those lenses with a grain of salt. But he didn't hit that part. To me, I would be like, if I was having to choose a choreo, that would be my note. I love that though. It felt like he got shot. Love it. I mean, no, it's not good that he got shot, but I understood that. Like, I heard the sound based on his interpretation. That's what you want. So it comes out, the little thread through. That's really cool, where he holds it, boom, and he has this little extra, like, rag doll kind of push and pull. Really cool. That ba-da-da, I'm assuming that goes on the back. Also, we have to note, with it's audio overlaid, I don't know if this is properly overlaid over what he's doing. That's a big note. Because I'm assuming the editors may not be dancers, and so it's hard to catch that. Love that. There's a little stack up in there. That's also cool. Like, that was cool. Da-da-da-da-da-da. But once again, that felt a smidgen missed opportunity in that moment. And that does feel pretty repetitive, even here. One. Yeah, so he ends up doing it twice. Two. Oh, he ends up doing it twice. It's fine. But the hang at the end was really cool. So I would say he has some really cool moments in it. But the general framework of the choreo, I do see some big holes that would be turnoffs for me personally if I were to select it. It would bother me, and I would be very tempted to do something different, which is what you wouldn't want to do. You'd want to maintain what the choreo is. Because I was a huge stickler on that in the stage auditions. I think it was for Korean? It was for Korean dance. That was a big note I gave. So, yeah, anyway, though. But it had some really, really cool moments, though. All right, next up. So he ends up doing just this little ticking, little strobing action there. I'm going to say, let's give it strobing. But it wasn't clear. It wasn't as clear as readable. And whenever you start your choreo, this, of course, is right here in the middle of it. It's fine. But normally when you see people start choreo with something really complex like that and it doesn't quite hit, you're already setting the bar of what we're looking at in competency of craft and other things that you integrate, not to the same standard that you'd want it to be. So that would be my note there. My big note to him, very, very stiff in the upper body, and that's fine if you know how to utilize it. I don't think he did. Because his turn was fine, the reach was nice, the branch around, his feet are gorgeous. Just call it, it's gorgeous feet. Extensions are fine, but also it feels like we're completely ignoring the music. That's fine. But even how he's breaking away, why is he breaking away? Why is his texture or dynamic choice as it is if we're not hitting a part of the music to justify it? Feels very disconnected and not conversational, which is really important when you do dance in general, but contemporary especially. All that there, not readable, big note. But I like the accent there, still anticlimactic for the opportunity. The reach up's fine. It feels more like an across the floor than anything, but it could just be how he's holding himself. Texture can go a long way on this. Reformatting the timing, I think, could go a long way for this too. The turn, and of course I love that little insert of the thing, but his ending I love it. It's cool. Bam, bam. Yeah, cool. Next one is this one. Namson Yoon. Ba-na-na-na. How he built that was really nice. Notice that it feels like he's stacking these little accented pushes and pulls. I love stuff like that. And it feels like, okay, where are we going with it? It allows me to kind of dive in with him and feel like, ooh, I see what he's doing. What are we stacking to? And my first note, we don't break or not break. We don't tone shift. Even though our music does, we don't follow suit. It kind of feels like we're going to bleed over this phrase, even though the phrase isn't as much of a punch that justifies the choice. But that could, once again, be a preference for me. That little, fine. I like his flow, though. Flow's really nice. The little kick there is fine. I am curious about his hip alignment for that. Yeah, like it's a bit in no man's land. Normally, whenever you do choose to kick, you want to be very intentional on your hip direction. It could just be, remember, these are drafts. It's whatever. All these guys are good at what they do or they wouldn't be on the show, right? So it's not really that, but a lot of times, sometimes we just don't have the best run. For me, it feels very ambiguous. Maybe in the torso and just what he's wearing, it's just really hard to tell what kind of position it feels with this arm specifically. it's not really, I mean, it's like an arabesque, but not, you know, like this is I would really prefer for this body to be up nice and tall because this is a gorgeous line, but also not quite sure what's going on with the hip alignment, but I think it's influenced off of his torso. That's what I'm going to go with. And I think that's why it kind of threw me off in a different way. But even here, his flow is still ignoring some really cool opportunities in your track. You want, just like in freestyle and just like in choreo in general, in dance, you want to recognize the timbres, tonal colors, and the overall structure of your track. You don't just want to go on your own lane unless if it's freestyle a lot of times. I'm talking about like battles, like battle freestyles. But in freestyle, you know, you can kind of do that if you want. It's your choice. It's the freedom of movement. But with like like battles and actual style justification, and with choreography, polyrhythms, we talk about that pretty often. It's multiple rhythms that happen at the same time that are different, right? And whenever you cater that to your track, that you must mean that we have to recognize that there's different sounds and different layers of our song. Our songs are onions is what I like to call, if you've ever seen Shrek. You know, ogres have layers, songs have layers. That's what I just a really fun analogy to use. But, you know, every song is a different degree of layers, and some of them have different textures and different colors about them. You know, if you associate colors with emotions, that can be a really interesting thing to talk through, right? But all of that to say, if we're choosing to ignore certain sounds that don't happen as often as certain flows do, flow is one thing. I love it and I respect it. But if we're not taking opportunities to hear or showcase these other elements of the track, are we doing the song as much justice as we could? You know, that's a subjective topic, but it's still a conversation we can at least entertain, right? So that would be my overlying note here, based on preference of somebody who really does dive into flow pretty often as a waiver in the scene. We do think about it. I love his flow. That was nice. But that was also the second time that he ended up doing an arabesque influence kind of move, so we would be counting that, you know, just like with our second choreography, we ended up repeating a couple stuff too, but I like the fact he ended up doing a jump or something along those lines. It registered well with me. But then when he slid through, I think more power there to really hit the punch would have really made that feel more impactful, because the song feels impactful, but things aren't hitting, it's not translating. And he ends up doing the same thing that we've seen in other choreography, so I hope you're noticing there's some overlaps and some techniques. Could be because they go to the same school, or we're in the same country developing their style, even though pretty much everybody's Korean. And some of them have received professional training elsewhere, so we have to keep that in mind. Turn. This floor work is really fun. So that right there, I love the variant, was cool. Forward roll, nice. The turn was nice, and then he ends up dying. Hey, I love me a good... To me, nothing is more like satisfying than just laying on the floor when you finish dancing and it's choreographed. Sign me up. So the endings for me, I think, are really, really fun. I mean, outside of the one that we decided to do a jump at it, I don't know why, but okay. So Kim Young-un, I will say he's growing on me. The more I'm seeing his movement quality and how he's going through the audition processes, the more I'm really digging how he showcases himself. There's a majesticness, masculinity behind it, power, prowess, but also there's conversation behind it. It feels readable, and just in general, and before I even get into the choreo, it's something that it's very satisfying to the eye, and it makes you want to watch. There has to be some degree of confidence in your movement quality to be able to allow somebody that privilege of feeling that way. That's my goal a lot of times, is for people to feel comfortable enough to see the readability of my movement. And if not, I have to be confident and comfortable enough with myself as a human to be okay with that too, right? So it's just so interesting to talk about all this stuff, right? I like these choices, like that right there, bump, 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 so he brings it over. This, honestly, I take back what I said in the very beginning. He does recognize some degree of a waltz influence kind of posture to some degree, just in this beginning, which was cool. The lift is nice, bum, 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 so it's clear, readable, really nice, and I love da-da, he matches it in the shapes. Yeah, the bum, bum, it kind of feels like a little cat. Meow, 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 it's cute. Yeah, ba-da-da, boom, I like the hip switch on that. The turn was cool, the hit there. Of course, a little stability check. I like this choice. I understand why he went to the back, I wonder if maybe framing it just a smidgen further. I don't even know if he can. I do like the choice though. I'm just curious how it would, if it was selected, how it would read on camera. It could be just a vantage point thing. I just don't know. It's cool though. Yeah, because he brings it in and then we hit it. I think it's this moment. It gets lost. You don't see what's going on here. Normally you would see people cheat where you wouldn't have your back directly to the audience unless you're doing things straight side. A lot of times, here's the thing. You can do whatever you want. It's choreo, right? But there are certain things that do fare better than others, especially in a competitive environment. That's what we're touching on more. But at the end of the day, everybody is justified in their own right to execute the choreo the way that they see fit. The song with their choreo that they see fit, regardless of their skill set, because it's contemporary. It's kind of like a no holds barred style in a lot of cases, and we can elaborate on it further if you would like. But it's a very fascinating kind of thing to navigate through. So he's perfectly justified to make this choice. In the competition sense, would facing the back and bringing it to the inside before framing it back out, would that kind of potentially cause it to not be as readable, which could influence whether or not somebody selects it? Absolutely, right? Just like a single jump can be a reason why I don't pick something. Not because can I or can I not do it, which can be a factor too, but the practicality of it in the phrase in which they set it up. Like, that's a big thing for me, is context of why the jump exists. Is it justified? And if the answer is no, and you can't justify it as a choreographer, it doesn't allow me the ability to trust you that you're going to follow through and actually set me up for success as an ensemble member, right? Or a secondary role in your work, right? It's interesting. The turn was cool. Hit through. Da ba da da. He ends up doing something, I think, 4 times, right? 2, 3, 4. So he ends up doing 3 in the same kind of position. The first one went a little bit more forward. Personally, I wish, personal preference, power 3s is what I always think about when you repeat something. I don't know if he deviated enough for doing it 4 times, right? And especially, I don't know what Taemin's verbiage is. Maybe changing the dynamic of it, I think, would have fared this better if he kept the actual framework of it. That's just a personal note. He can do whatever he wants, though. Remember, don't matter. The hit over, boom, 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 low ball change. And then that little here, I do wish, I mean, it kind of got stuck right here. Once again, fine. But it did feel a little bit awkward. You know, a lot of these choices are a little bit hard to get clean. I think it's my note. But we're learning, though, that this is soloist. This is soloist choreo. So whoever's the lead, whoever's, which is the first guy's choreo got selected, but I don't think he's going to be lead because he's second class going into the auditions for the next episode. This choreo is going to be meant for that individual, just the lead. And then whoever is adjudicating, which I love this, they're the ones that actually do the choreo for the ensemble, which I'm like freaking bonkers on the Korean dance. Was so cool. He reaches fine, hit over, and I like how he took the arm and he twists it and brings it over his face. I like that choice. The arm extension, taking the head, and then we create a little open space. I like the potential of that. You could totally fix point that hand and make the body operate around it. I don't know if he was going for that or not, but I like the option. The pick up there, hit over, boom, and we throw, little ball change. The turn is fine. Ding, 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 cool. Ding, 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 and then we go bring it around. And then from there, peekaboo, boom. And then he just steps back. Cool. If you have him just fall on the floor, that also works too. So I would say out of all of them, outside of the one that got selected, I don't mind this one. I like this one. I think this one would be, there's a lot of interesting elements in it that I would be curious to try, I think is my thing. Some of them have really cool flow moments, but there are some that have such strange phrasing, or straight phrasing that's not my preference, that I would want to stay away from because it would eat at me from the lack of musicality in it. That kind of stuff. I'd be like, and it would be hard for me to retain it because I've learned enough choreography to know what my brain is going to naturally want to retain and not. Even if it's in a competitive environment, I still struggle with it. But I had a lot of fun with this. This was so fascinating. I love being able to look at choreo drafts and talk through the different if, ands, and buts. But at the end of the day, remember, they're all able to do this, and we just have the privilege of getting to watch. I just get to commentate and enjoy and grow alongside you guys, trying to understand what about these choreos are so cool, which ones, why do they make me feel a certain way. I'm just a human too, trying to make sense of this complicated world of dance, but also the beauty of it at the same time. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. Like I've mentioned, I've been actively following Stage Fighter, and every time they have uncut material or dance concept films sent out, I go and I try to make it a priority to watch and enjoy and just commentate, add my perspective on things that I've experienced in the industry within my scope and my niche, as well as just being able to hear from you guys and what are things that you guys have taken away from the episodes, as well as certain techniques that we end up seeing in the auditions that are just different verbiages, or they are just comparisons of just different cultural backgrounds within the same overlapping styles, which is so cool. I'm also looking at the full episodes for more refined feedback, so if you notice that I'm looking at material and maybe a little different in perspective compared to what I end up talking through when I look at the episode. But in this context, I actually watched this after the episode, so I have way better understanding going in. So this is why I probably have a different way of going about this one compared to the ballet and the Korean ones that we saw last week. But I'm excited for the commentary on this. You guys know me, I know you. I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.